Have you ever heard of the cowboy who taught America what it meant to be a cowboy? No, I'm not talking about Buffalo Bill or Wild Bill Hickok, though he was their partner. I'm talking about a man whose real-life adventures were so incredible they became the stuff of legend, a man named Jack Omohundro, better known to the world as Texas Jack. His story is a whirlwind of cattle drives, army scouting, and stage performances that defined the image of the American West. So, grab your hat, settle in, and let's ride back in time to uncover the tale of the first true cowboy superstar. John Baker Omohundro was born near Palmyra, Virginia, in 1846. He grew up surrounded by the rolling hills of the countryside, but his peaceful youth was cut short by the outbreak of the American Civil War. Barely a teenager, he tried to enlist in the Confederate Army under the famed General J.E.B. Stuart. Though initially turned away for being too young, his persistence paid off, and he eventually served as a courier and scout, honing the skills that would later define his life on the frontier. The war was a brutal teacher, but for a young man like John, it was a forge, shaping him into the resourceful and resilient man he was to become. After the war, with the South in ruins, Omohundro, like many young men, looked west for a new start. He headed to Texas, the land of opportunity and adventure. It was here that he truly came into his own. He learned the cowboy trade from the ground up, working on massive cattle drives that moved thousands of longhorns from the sprawling plains of Texas to the railheads in Kansas and Nebraska. This was the era of the great cattle trails, a grueling and dangerous life that demanded grit, skill, and an intimate knowledge of the land. It was during a particularly difficult river crossing on the Chisholm Trail that he earned his famous nickname. While other cowboys hesitated, he plunged into the swollen river to guide the herd across, earning the admiration of his fellow drovers and the moniker Texas Jack. His reputation as a skilled horseman and fearless cowboy grew. By the early 1870s, his adventures had led him to Fort McPherson in Nebraska, a bustling hub on the frontier. It was here that his life took another dramatic turn. He met a man who was already a living legend, William F. Cody, better known as Buffalo Bill. Cody, then a scout for the U.S. Army, recognized a kindred spirit in Texas Jack. They quickly became close friends and scouting partners, embarking on buffalo hunts for visiting dignitaries and tracking parties for the 5th Cavalry. One of their most famous expeditions was a grand buffalo hunt organized for the Grand Duke Alexei Alexandrovich of Russia in 1872. With Buffalo Bill and Texas Jack as their guides, the royal party experienced the thrill of the American prairie, an event that made headlines around the world and further cemented the scouts' fame. During this time, Texas Jack also scouted in the campaigns against the Plains tribes, a complex and often tragic chapter in American history. He was respected by the military for his tracking abilities and his understanding of the land. It was also during this period that he formed a friendship with another icon of the West, James Butler Wild Bill Hickok. The trio of Buffalo Bill, Texas Jack, and Wild Bill represented the pinnacle of frontier celebrity. Their real-life exploits were already being sensationalized in dime novels, popular pulp paperbacks that captivated a nation hungry for tales of the Wild West. The author Ned Buntline, a master of this new genre, saw an opportunity. He tracked down Buffalo Bill and Texas Jack and convinced them to bring their adventures from the prairie to the stage. In December 1872, the Scouts of the Prairie debuted in Chicago. The show was a raw, chaotic, and utterly mesmerizing spectacle. Neither Cody nor Jack were trained actors, but their authenticity was their greatest asset. They were the real deal. Cowboys and scouts telling their own stories, complete with thrilling, if sometimes clumsy, reenactments of shootouts and skirmishes. Wild Bill Hickok even joined them for a season, though his discomfort with the theatrical world was famously apparent. It was on stage that Texas Jack truly shone. While Buffalo Bill was the showman, Jack was the storyteller. He had a natural charm and a quiet charisma that audiences loved. He would often perform roping tricks and tell stories from his life on the trail. One of his most significant contributions was introducing the American public to the realities of a cowboy's life. Before Texas Jack, the term cowboy was not widely known or understood. Through his performances and interviews, he explained the skills, the dangers, and the spirit of the men who worked the cattle drives. He, in effect, created the archetype of the heroic American cowboy that endures to this day. During his time on the stage, he also found love. He co-starred with the beautiful and talented Italian actress, Giuseppina Morlacchi. She was a celebrated dancer and performer, and the two fell deeply in love, marrying in 1873. Their romance was a story in itself, the rugged frontiersman and the sophisticated European ballerina. Together, they formed their own acting troupe and continued to tour, with Jack writing and starring in plays based on his own life, like Texas Jack in the Black Hills. He even found time to write articles for national newspapers, sharing his experiences and knowledge of the West with a broad audience. He was more than just a performer. He was a cultural ambassador for the American frontier. Jack and Morlacchi dreamed of a quieter life. They bought a home in Lowell, Massachusetts, and Jack started planning a horse ranch. He loved the outdoors and longed to return to a life closer to nature. In 1880, they traveled to the high altitudes of Leadville, Colorado, a booming silver mining town. Jack was considering new business ventures, but the mountain air proved too much for his lungs. He contracted pneumonia, and his health rapidly declined. On June 28, 1880, at the heartbreakingly young age of 33, Texas Jack Omohundro passed away. The legendary scout, the original stage cowboy, the man who had survived the Civil War, countless cattle drives, and frontier conflicts, was gone. His death shocked the nation. Buffalo Bill was devastated by the loss of his dear friend and partner, calling him a noble and generous man. Texas Jack was buried in Leadville, in the Evergreen Cemetery, a fitting resting place for a man of the mountains and plains. Though his life was short, his impact was immeasurable. He was the first cowboy to become a national star, the man who defined the cowboy ethos for generations to come. While names like Buffalo Bill and Wild Bill might be more famous today, it was Texas Jack Omohundro who first rode out of the West and into the heart of America, forever shaping our vision of the frontier. His legacy isn't just in the dime novels or the old playbills. It's in every movie, every story, and every song that celebrates the independent, courageous spirit of the American cowboy. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the life of the incredible Texas Jack. If you enjoyed this story, please give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more tales from the Wild West. We'll see you on the next trail.